So, Gwyn, I'm guessing some businesses are more risky than others, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And if you take your sort of standard office or retail shop, the legislation still applies. They still have to, cater for risk. But you're right, if you compare them to a manufacturing site or a woodworking shop or a construction site, then obviously there's much more going on in those businesses that could harm you or kill you, and therefore you've got to have the requisite management systems in place to make sure that doesn't happen. So,
I know you've included an example list of the sorts of businesses that would
yeah,
expect to have a heavier set of health and safety obligations applied to them, and they're
yeah,
in the guide that you've created for Ferrilio.
they are.
Should we take a look?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So here's the Health and Safety Guide 101 for small businesses. So
Yeah.
a great place to start. And if we look at the section on does every business need to be health and safety compliant, just down here under your subheading, which businesses carry the biggest health and safety risks?
Yeah.
You've answered it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. As we sort of alluded to in the introduction there, obviously all businesses need to comply with the management regulations, the Health and Safety at Work Act. You decipher which elements of it apply to your business, and then you apply them to whatever you do. Naturally, I think we've detailed here, warehousing businesses. You think about how tall some of the racking can be in these modern warehouses, sometimes tens of meters high. You've got workplace transport in those environments with forklift trucks whizzing around everywhere. You've got manual handling issues with people picking up boxes and moving them around the warehouse. You've got loading, unloading with wagons. You've got uncoupling of wagons. You've got all sorts going on in that, which is obviously a lot more than a few people milling around an office. So
Yeah, slightly more risky than a co-work space where we're based. But you've got things here like garages and vehicles as well. Construction, clearly one of the biggest risk businesses.
Absolutely, yeah. If you take garages as an example, one of the big issues in their environment is COSH, control of substances hazardous to health. They're working with petroleum, with engine oils, with all sorts of greases and sprays. They can do all manner of nasty things to the human body. And how do you risk assess for that? How do you show what control measures you've got in place for them? And you mentioned the construction industry. They've even got their own set of regulations. The construction design and management regulations came into play in 2015. And they sort of clearly state how all parties in a construction project are meant to interact from a health and safety point of view, from the client appointing the principal contractor all the way through the principal contractor and down to the subcontractors and the labourers on site, and then how all that is pulled together and managed safely.
Yeah, it's not an industry I'd want to work in, I have to say. I don't know how they sleep at night. There's so much to remember. But you've got food production here as well. Beauty, cosmetics and pharmaceutical businesses as well, I think often gets forgotten, doesn't it? That you might be creating artisanal products for healthcare, maybe sort of lotions or soaps or shampoos, for example. These can carry just as much risk, can't they?
Absolutely, yeah. You come back to the example of the motor trade industry. It's a cost risk. So we've got a number of clients where we'll work with laboratory-based environments. They might only seem like a small scheme of work, so taking very small amounts of two substances, mixing them together to try to create something else, but those substances, whether it's 100 litres of it or it's 10 millilitres of it, it's still got the same properties and still has the same hazardous exposure, no matter how much volume of it there is, and therefore that needs to be risk assessed accordingly.
Exactly. And I think in this day and age where there's so many allergies out there as well, I mean, some of them we won't know until there is an incident, unfortunately, and it highlights that a particular product or substance has become dangerous.
Yep.
But there are lists, aren't there, of things that should never be applied to the skin or have to be handled in a particular way.
Absolutely. So every company who manufactures a COSH product has to issue an SDS, a safety data sheet, and that is basically a list of its properties. I always say to a client, it's a list of how that product can kill you, and then what you've got the responsibility to do as a business under the health and safety regulations is to then create a risk assessment, a COSH risk assessment, to show what measures you've taken to work safely with that product. So you take your safety data sheet, you decipher the information that's within it, and then you put that into a risk assessment document to show what control measures you've put in place in order to use that material in a safe way.
Brilliant. That's an awful lot to take in. I'm assuming that these sort of safety assessment sheets effectively talk you through what you've got to enter and how you do it.
Absolutely, yeah. There's standard sort of protocol to follow. So yeah, you take the articles within the safety data sheet, you transpose them onto a standard risk assessment format for Kosh, and then you implement whatever controls that you use as a business in order to minimise the hazards.
Excellent. Is that the kind of thing that you'd help clients through? Can they do some of that on their own using sort of publicly available data? How much would you expect a client, particularly handling Kosh standard substances, to be doing on their own?
Well, I'd expect them to obtain the safety data sheets from the manufacturer or whoever it is that they purchase the janitorial products off, for example. They're readily available and they should be should be issued, like I say, with every product that the business buys. So you obtain your safety data sheets, and then that's when you need that competent person, that person who understands the Kosh regs, to come in and identify how you're going to be applying that material or that liquid or whatever it is to your standard processes, and then decipher how you should then control the hazards that substance brings with it. Create a risk assessment, and then you communicate it out to the people who are at risk, the people who are undertaking the process. And like I say, they're having that sort of competent knowledge of the Kosh regs is really helpful in that circumstance. Kosh is quite a big area that we'll get involved with clients because it's so far-reaching and it touches pretty much every business. You think of an office risk who employs a cleaner, for example. Well, they're going to be using some sort of janitorial products which will have safety data sheets and therefore need a Kosh assessment. So right the way through to manufacturing sites that are using whole rafts of different Kosh products.
So even for your sort of micro businesses or one person business, production businesses perhaps, doing your hand soaps or whatever it is that they're creating, you still need to have an awareness of these things and really make sure that the products they're bringing in or relying on to create their end product carry the right sort of safety certifications or assessment certifications, and then the way that they're producing whatever their actual proposition is continues a process that's very safe.
Yes.
According to the regs, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. If you think of a common complaint that a lot of people have, dermatitis, for example, that can be aggravated quite easily by what looks like a harmless chemical, something which you use day to day in everyday life. And then someone contracts dermatitis or it's aggravated on the skin, and all of a sudden they've got time off work, they go to the doctors and they've got to get a sick note, all of a sudden it becomes RIDDOR reportable because they've been off work for so long. Then the HSE get involved, they come and investigate, they identify that you've not got a Kosh assessment, you've caused harm to one of your members of staff, and then all of a sudden you're negligent, and then you've got an issue from a regulatory point of view. So it's much easier to capture it all right at the start, get your systems in place, apply it to your process, and make sure that you constantly review it to ensure it remains safe.
Brilliant. So food, pharma, anything really that's affected by these regulations, really, you do need to stay on top of it.
Yeah, I think the best course of action is get competent advice, either look within your workforce to see who's got the relevant qualifications to take on that role, or look outside of the business at a consultancy type relationship, someone who can come in who's an expert in the field and can tell you, look, these are the risks you've got with regards to Kosh. This is how we can manage it moving forward and implement a system to do that.
Yeah, and then you've got that peace of mind.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay.